Hey and welcome everyone. Let's take a look at the first 5 minutes of VS Code. We'll go through the most basic settings and plugins, and when we're done, I will show you the effects of what we configured and why they are so useful. First, let's go through the Getting Started page. First thing to choose is a theme. We'll just stick with the default dark theme. Put a check on that's done. Then configure language support. And we'll just go with the most dominant plugin that's there, and that would be the Python plugin from Microsoft. Once that's installed, we'll be able to just run about any Python project that we would like to have. Okay, that's done. Now, one shortcut for everything, that's Ctrl-Shift-P. And you can see if you hit that, you'll get access to all commands that VS Code has available. Last, but we'll not do that right now, open your code, pick a folder. Rather, we'll take a look at the recommended extensions, and for us that would be Remote WSL. That's Windows Subsystem for Linux, and since I have it installed on my PC, we'll just go ahead and install that too. Okay, and once it is installed, we'll just close it up and take one last look. Pick a folder is not what we're doing, so let's move on to the next configuration. The next thing that we want to do is go through all the settings. Our first setting will be the blinking cursor, which we're going to turn off. It's going to be a solid, nice cursor. Next up, we'll configure our font. We're going to use Vera Code, which you can get from GitHub. Just Google it and you'll find it. We're also going to enable font ligatures. Those are a nice combined display of characters, and I'll show you in a second. First, greater or equals then without ligatures, and now greater or equals then with ligatures. Next up will be format on save, so that every time we save a file, our editor will do the work for us and give us a really nice layout of the code that we've written. Another cool feature is the Minimap. We'll set it to fill so that it doesn't change the size according to the actual file size that we have, and we can more easily navigate to the section of the file that we want to be in. Personal favorite of mine is the autosave feature. We're going to set it to on focus change. That means every time you change a tab, you move from a tab to a terminal or go to the sidebar, that will save your file. You'll never be able to forget to save a file, and on top of that, the Git integration and various other integrations in VS Code will pick that up and do all the hard work for you. That is an interesting part because we're going to look at two settings at once. The first is the editor, and it shows us a UI versus a JSON setting. And the second is the use split JSON setting, which gives you a view of all the existing preferences that VS Code has and all the preferences that you have set in JSON. That comes in pretty handy if you're ever going to look through the settings and search for something specific, because you can just use find and replace in an easier way. And you'll also be able to just scan through all the settings quickly if you want to discover new ones. Also, there's built-in support for screencasting. By default, it'll show you every single keystroke, but usually you don't want that. You want only the keyboard shortcuts, which you can see right now, and that'll show you just the keyboard shortcuts whenever they are typed. And since I don't like the built-in PowerShell window, I installed Windows Terminal, and that can be started by setting it up as the external Windows exec command for a terminal, and that command is wt.exe. Next up is the cursor style for the integrated terminal, where we're setting it to the same as for the editor. I like to have a line and not a block or anything like that. The last settings are that I want to always have a final new line, but not more than one. So let's set these up. And also I do want to trim all the trailing white spaces. So let's set that up. With all this, all the basic settings are now done. Thank you and happy coding, everyone.